Hey guys, how you doing? It's another beautiful day here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'm trying to get through questions that people ask me. Uh, contacts every, I get contacted every day. People asking questions about Japan. I want to help out my viewers and tell you as much about Japan as I possibly can. But a lot of people contact me, and I have a couple pet peeves. If you don't introduce yourself, tell me your name. Like, I'm not even going to be interested in what you have to say after that. Also, if you can keep the letter very as short as possible and ask just one question, that'll help. I'll most likely be able to answer your question. If you write a really long letter and don't use punctuation, I'm most likely not going to read it. But just keep it short, introduce yourself, one question. So let's go to this question here. He says, "Hi Ryan, my name is Sean and I'm 17 years old and headed to college soon. I'm planning on heading to Japan after college, but I was wondering if it would be best to take 4-year course on Japanese, or should it be something I should do on my own, like free books and free websites? Thanks for responding." Okay, Sean, you can definitely learn a lot of Japanese on the internet from the, you know, ebooks, free websites, and stuff. Actually, when I was studying Japanese, I started to study back in um, 1999, a long time ago. Uh, the internet was just kind of getting started back then. I don't think there was a lot of like internet sites for learning Japanese. I never looked into it really. I bought books. Remember those? Yeah, I bought books and I studied from books. And I was a taxi cab driver after I finished college. And while I was waiting for customers, I would just open my book and study some Japanese words and grammar and stuff like that. And to tell you the truth, it's really hard to study Japanese when you're not in Japan because you really don't have to use it in your everyday life. I think the best way to learn a language is when your survival depends on it. And when the necessity of Japanese really kicked in for me was when I came to Japan and my survival depended on it. Like I had to go get something to eat or I had to make friends. That's when I was felt really motivated to learn Japanese. So you can learn Japanese without going to a school. I believe that. But you have to be extremely motivated and very organized about your time and planning out your studying. And it's hard to keep studying and studying when you have no goal or no motivation. For example, if you had a Japanese girlfriend in Japan and you live in America, um, you might have some motivation to be studying Japanese while you're in America because you want to be able to speak Japanese to your girlfriend and you think you might go to Japan someday. Whether you can keep that up for years on end is another question. But basically, I'm going to stop wasting your time and I'm going to get straight down to your question right now. My advice would be that since you're already going to be in college, you can take these Japanese courses, for free pretty much. Go for it. Take those Japanese courses. Why not? You're already in college. And I think that the courses that you're going to take at your university are going to be very structured in a way where it'll help you go from step A to step Z in a way where every little step helps you get to the next step. Whereas that's kind of hard to do when you're studying by yourself because you don't necessarily know how to get to a certain level if you don't know the previous levels. If that makes any sense. Another piece of advice I have is that if you study Japanese, it's going to tell you like, am I really interested in Japanese? It's one thing to be interested in Japan and a different thing to be interested in the Japanese language. You might just be interested in Japan. There are foreigners I know in Japan, in Kobe where I lived, and in Osaka. They lived there for like 15 to 20 years and they can't speak any Japanese. They have like a Japanese wife or a Japanese girlfriend, usually a Japanese wife. The wife speaks English, which I think is kind of sad actually. Think about how limited your world becomes when in a Japanese speaking country you can only speak English. Think about all the friends and relationships that you miss out on. Think about like every day having to depend on somebody who speaks English to do basic things. It really limits the amount of things you can do and the people you can talk to. So I think it's best to be able to speak Japanese if you're going to live in Japan. But I mean, there are people who just can't pick up a foreign language or they can't pick up Japanese, and they, they are happy. They seem happy with their life in Japan. I mean, like they say, ignorance is bliss. Um, so yeah, study Japanese in college. Take that first semester. You might find out that it's something you're not up for. Like I got into chemistry once. I thought, oh, chemistry looks fun, looks interesting, and I started studying it, and it was like so boring. I'm sorry. I mean, I still am interested in it, but it's very dense, and you have to really want to study chemistry to study chemistry. I just found out that it wasn't for me, or I didn't have a natural disposition to studying it. I lacked motivation. I lacked a goal. So um, that's my advice. Take Japanese in college. See if you like it first, and I think it's really going to help you someday. It's like before you go to Japan, you can accrue all this knowledge about the Japanese language, and the pieces of the puzzle aren't really going to fall into place until you actually start using Japanese. And then all that back knowledge that you have is really going to come into place and really accelerate your fluency once you get to Japan and you're using Japanese on a practical level.